Shalom, sister. Shalom. Koholo Yahweh Ba'Shem Hamashiach Wa Malaki Yahushai. All praises and honor and glory to Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai. Lord willing, sisters are feeling good through the Spirit. Happy prep day. So all praise to the Most High. This is just a Titus 2, even though it's not Tuesday, but going into the Feast of Unleavened Bread for sisters. Yesterday we had the Passover prep boot camp. Sisters, you need to get on there. You need to get on that Passover prep boot camp. Okay, next week we have some things planned out for sisters. We're going to start going into our cabinets, gathering things. If you haven't done it already, putting all your leaven into a box, just separating everything. Passover is April 11th, sundown, and it's always nice to do things decently in order and start prepping right after Passover. If you have to make garments, you got to clean your house, you got to go out of town, whatever you have to do, it's just best to get it done early. So we have a Passover prep boot camp. We had volume 1 yesterday, and the topic of discussion yesterday was the unleavened bread for Passover. So we're going to touch on that, and I'm going to also share some of the unleavened bread recipes that I love to make during the Feast of Unleavened Bread as well. And Lord willing, for the Feast of Unleavened Bread, I can actually go in and show y'all in detail how to make the recipes. Again, I know I have a video on how to make the unleavened bread for Passover and the waffles, but Lord willing, I can do the cinnamon rolls and the peanut butter jelly sandwich. So yeah, let's just jump right in there. So all praises to the Most High. Again, sisters, join the sisters chats. If you have questions, anything, of course you need to ask your husband at home. Okay, like the scripture says, you want to ask your husband at home. But if your husband allows you to get on a sister call to ask, sister questions in regards to baking, sewing, cooking, things of that nature, prepping for Passover, if he says it's okay to ask, hop on the calls, build with us, and build through the Spirit. So let's jump right in. Passover prep boot camp. Okay, this is a little Titus video for y'all, Lord willing. It's uploaded. All right, so we getting ready for the Feast of Unleavened Bread, y'all. This is my unleavened bread. All right, this is my unleavened bread through the Spirit and power of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai. Actually, this took years to actually get my unleavened bread to be like this. All right, so let me show y'all how, and this is just an example of being patient. And we brought this out on a sister call. I brought this out, just being patient with yourself during Passover. You're not going to get everything right the first time. Just be patient with yourself when you feel like your unleavened bread isn't turning out the way that you want it to turn out. As long as you follow the instructions and you practice, and that practice makes perfect. All right? And you give it your all. Ecclesiastes 9 and 10. Whatsoever thy hand findeth to do, do it with all thy might. For there is no work, nor device, nor knowledge, nor wisdom in the grave whither thou goest. So if you find yourself keeping a Feast of Unleavened Bread, keeping Passover, do it with all of your might. Try to perfect how you make your unleavened bread. Try to make your own recipes. Try to go all out. Just like in the world, people want to go all out for Christmas, to go all out for Thanksgiving. Now is our time to go all out and go 10 times harder to perfect our unleavened bread recipes and to perfect how we keep Passover. Okay, this is the unleavened bread. Okay, right here. It took a few years to get this right. All right, it didn't come overnight. It just wasn't an overnight. I just woke up and made this. It took years of practice. And a lot of our people fry bread. You can fry cornbread. A lot of Benjamites fry their bread. It's just pretty much what makes the recipe delicious is just frying it. But like Sister Shana said on a call, the good thing about this recipe is that you can use it for pizza crust, empanada dough. You can use it for pretty much, it's a foundation to whatever you want to make. Okay? All right, so this is my fried honey unleavened bread recipe. Like I told y'all before, we already got the video on it on my channel. You just have to look for it, Lord willing. But all you need is flour, kosher salt, garlic salt powder, honey, brown sugar, olive oil, almond milk, and water. All right, so you don't need a lot. You only need a few ingredients to make the unleavened bread. Okay? All right, in this recipe, it can make about 15 pieces of bread. So what I typically do is I'll double the recipe. And honestly, sometimes y'all don't even use the recipe. I just, at this point, I kind of just know how to make it. But this is the recipe, and I wanted to touch on a few things about the unleavened bread for Passover. And this came up on a sister's call. This comes up in messages. A lot of sisters ask, well, what about eggs? Personally, and I'm gonna say this every year, unless the Lord put on my spirit to renege on my opinion and my household opinion and our congregation's opinion on the eggs, I don't use eggs. Now I did. Let me show y'all a picture when I used eggs. Now this is when I first started making unleavened bread. This was in 2015. I made this unleavened bread. And honestly, I mean, the egg was unnecessary because it really didn't do anything for the unleavened bread. Even when I bake, even when you bake the unleavened bread from the fried recipe, you can still bake that bread. It's still going to turn out better than this recipe right here with the eggs in it. I didn't know what I was doing, but I know I was trying. And that's why I said, before, practice makes perfect. But it didn't really make a difference to me, in my opinion. Now, when it comes to actually making the desserts for the breads, some sisters use eggs. I don't. It's really all about your intent. Some people like to say they only like to use the egg yolk, or they only want to use the egg white, or they only want to use the egg for the flavor, etc. But just to be safe, we just say, let's just not use it. Let's not have anything help rise it. And some sisters will say, oh, it doesn't help rise. In my opinion, I'm just not going to use it. And I'd rather be safe than sorry. All right, so I found this article right here. All right, and it gives you an example. And we have to keep in a reminder, this is with yeast added with the eggs. Okay, but this is the principles of baking. An article a baker wrote. What effect does egg have on bread dough? All right, let's go into it. I don't want to read the whole. Let's just go into it. These questions have been increasingly popping up in the comments section under some of my videos. And this is another baker. And I'm just going to say it's a woman. Right, and I guess she started by asking herself the same question. Usually the same bread dough that contains egg also contains sugar and fat. So it is more used as an enriched dough, be it brioche buns or cinnamon rolls. Most of the time they all contain the whole egg. She says, I decided to make 4 breads and I kept it simple with just flour, water, and yeast and salt. One was made without egg as a benchmark, one with a whole egg, one with just the egg white, and the last one with only the yolk. There are some things to consider when writing a recipe that contains eggs. That contains eggs. First is the water and fat content of it. A whole egg is 75% water and 9% fat. An egg yolk is 50% water and 30% fat. And an egg white is 90% water and basically 0% fat. And that we can adjust the water and fat content in the final dough using these percentages and applying them to the baker's percentage dough recipe calculations. So baking is really just math and science at the end of the day. All right, but perhaps even more importantly than the calculation is the question of what the egg brings to the final product. And that is the question, what does the egg, and what is the intent of the egg when you are using it in your unleavened bread? Okay, that's the question as well. Are you using it? All right, so what is your intent? Are you using it to, as a glaze, to brown a pie crust? For your sweet potato pie? Are you using it to brown some unleavened bread biscuits that you want to make? Or are you using it for the structure and the taste of the bread? And when it comes down to the structure of that bread, you have to remember that it can expand your bread. It can expand your bread. And let's go back up to the top. Even if you just use that egg white, it still makes it more lighter, more fluffier, and you can tell by the picture. All right, let's finish reading. All right, let's scroll down. Okay, but besides the nutritional benefits, there are a few other good reasons to use egg in bread making. It makes the bread lighter and fluffier. The reason for that is that the fat in the yolk that inhabits gluten formation just as any other fat would. This results in a looser dough that can expand and puff up more. And that's exactly what happens when you use egg. Even if you just use the egg white, the egg yolk, it doesn't matter. You're still making it puff up more, which causes it to rise more, when it's supposed to be as unleavened as can be. Because even when you think about, if we put ourselves in that position, let's say sisters were probably making all different types of bread, maybe biscuits with eggs that didn't need yeast, which would be just baking powder, baking soda, eggs, butter, buttermilk. If they were making biscuits, some could have just been making, let's say, buns, which would have included the eggs, the yeast, the salt, the sugar, the warm milk or warm goat's milk, etc. I'm just thinking about what they would use back then. There's different types of breads that sisters was making in the ancient world in their kneading troughs. So let's go to that right quick. All right, this is Exodus 12, and let's start at 32. Also take your flocks and your herds, as ye have said, and be gone, and bless me also. And the Egyptians were urgent upon the people, that they might send them out of the land in haste, for they said, we be all dead men. And the people took their dough before it was leavened, their kneading troughs being bound up in their clothes upon their shoulders. And the children of Israel did according to the word of Moses, and they borrowed of the Egyptians jewels of silver and jewels of gold and raiment. And the Lord gave the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians, so that they lent unto them such things as they required, and they spoiled the Egyptians. And the children of Israel journeyed from Ramses to Succoth, about 600,000 on foot that were men beside children. And a mixed multitude went up also with them, and flocks, and herds, even very much cattle. And they baked unleavened cakes of the dough which they brought forth out of Egypt, for it was not leavened, because they were thrust out of Egypt, and could not tarry, neither had they prepared themselves any victual. So even when they made their biscuits, and they put their biscuit dough in their kneading trough, wrapped it up, put it on their clothes, and then they made it through, and now it's time to cook the bread, that biscuit dough isn't no longer going to rise. So that would still make that biscuit dough unleavened. I don't know if y'all ever made biscuit dough, or if you ever left biscuit dough out and then you put it in the oven. It's not going to bake the same way it would bake with a fresh biscuit dough. So it's going to still rise a little bit, but it's not going to be completely leavened. Let's say they were just making regular bread, or buns. Let's say that they were doing that. Even if they were making bread rolls, again, the whole point of the matter is that it didn't rise. It didn't get a chance to rise because they were in haste and they had to make it fast. That's how you know they got out of their fast, because it takes a while for bread to rise. It can take between 1 to 2 hours, depending on if you're using active yeast, just the non-active yeast. It can take 1 to almost 2 to 3 hours for bread to rise. When you look up eggs as leavening agents, especially egg whites, when whipped, trapped air, which expands during baking and contributes to a light and airy texture. So that even when you use an egg, it still makes it a little bit more airy, a little bit more fluffier, which causes it obviously to rise. And we have to remember as well that leavening is also spiritual. That's kind of like, all right, well, I know that if you go through examining yourself and you writing your list down, preparing for Passover, and you trying to get rid of all that old leaven, and you know for certainly that, dang, I know I need to stop stealing. And you writing down, I know I need to stop lying. I know I need to stop bearing false witness. I know I need to stop being proud. And you're writing down a list, just like we write down this list of all the leavening agents. We're writing down this list of all the things that we need to work on. And then we say, well, like the scripture says, a little leaven leaveneth the whole lump. And we're going to get that in a minute. But that's literally pretty much like saying, well, eggs, being proud, I'm only proud just when I need to be. I'm only proud when I need to be, when I need to stand up for myself, when I know that I'm right. I'm only proud when it comes to dealing with Edomites at my job. Or only lie when I gotta lie to get out of certain situations. You still having that old leaven. And that's the same thing with this list of leavening agents. Although they didn't put eggs on here, we do have a list without the eggs. I'ma just go ahead and still use it in my bread. I'ma use it just for the texture. I'm going to use it just for a little bit of the flavor. I'm going to use it for the structure because I like the way that it comes out. And I can tell you this. I've been making unleavened bread, which is not even a long time. But I've been making unleavened bread for this is the 11th year for me. For 11 years now. And like I said, I had my comparison of using it with eggs and without eggs. And it's really not that much of a difference. I mean, it really doesn't do much, but makes it a little bit more fluffier. But the taste is still going to be immaculate without it. But why not be safe than sorry and say, I don't want to use it? Even while examining yourself, dang, yeah, let me not make excuses to do according to my own will. And some people might say, oh, well, that's being overrighteous. You can still use eggs, whatever. It's at the end of the day, it's up to whatever your household congregation say. If your husband wants you to crack open a dozen of eggs and put it in an unleavened bread and then make an egg glaze on it and then fry some scrambled eggs, put it on top of it and cut it up, make it to an egg sandwich with some turkey bacon, then just do it. And turkey bacon has a lot of yeast in it too as well, so you got to make sure you check your turkey bacon. But, everybody has their own opinion about eggs. I just know that, WFR congregation and, my household, we don't use eggs when it comes to the unleavened bread, just to keep the integrity of Passover, because the intent was that nothing had a chance to rise, to even get to a state of being fluffy at all. And that's what eggs do. All right. And let's go back to the kneading troughs. All right. A kneading trough is a vessel, typically wooden, used to knead dough before baking into bread, allowing for thorough mixing and rising. So a kneading trough, it could be, you can get a big one too. They can, look, this is one right here. A kneading dough bowl. Let's look at the ancient ones. All right, if they putting them on their back, I'm going to think that, our foremothers, they was getting down to get down. So they was putting these kneading troughs on their back. If you was baking, our people love bread. We love making bread. This is an example. Food in ancient Egypt. Let's see what they were doing. It looks like they kind of working with a kneading trough a little bit. Let's look up an ancient Egyptian. Yeah, it said they were using their feet. Look, this is an example of a servant kneading dough in Egypt. This is them preparing dough. So I would say the kneading troughs had to be pretty big, a decent size. I guess it could be small, it could be big. Look, this is a kneading trough. So they had to, our foremothers had to carry that kneading trough, and they had to hurry up. We don't waste food. Our people, we're notorious for not wasting food. So we strapped that kneading trough on our back, probably, and wrapped it up, and we got out of there, and nothing had a chance to rise. All right, and let's get into another one. Okay, now some sisters, this is a question that was asked on the call as well. Eggs. Well, if I don't use eggs in my unleavened bread, can I still have it in my house? I mean, it's the intent of the eggs. You can make omelets for the Feast of Unleavened Bread. You can make fried eggs, scrambled eggs, sunny side, upside down eggs. Whatever you want to make, you can make eggs. As long as you're not using it in the intent to change the structure or to help bread rise in some extent. I mean, to not help bread rise. As long as you're not using it to change the structure of your unleavened bread. Okay. So, and then also going back into, and it says it 2 times in Exodus 12, when it says also take your flocks and your herds. We have flocks of birds, chickens. We might have had pigeons. We might have had quail. We probably had all different types of herds of flocks, or flocks of birds. So we had our flocks with us. We had eggs with us. It's just a matter of, did we put it in the bread or not? Or, just don't, like I said, it's better to be safe than sorry. Okay. Let me go back. Yes, and then Exodus 12 and 38. And a mixed multitude went up also with them, and flocks and herds, even very much cattle. That flocks of birds. So the eggs were there. The eggs were in the midst of the congregation. I think that if the Lord didn't want us to have eggs amongst us, then it would say that we don't want to add to the scripture. It would say that in the scripture. He would say, and ye shall have no eggs in the midst of, etc., the congregation body, your homes, etc. But he says leavening agents, which would be, although eggs can act as an active leavening agent, the leavening agents such as, let's go back to it, such as the vinegar, the baking soda, yeast, etc. Because you could still have, you still have chicken for Passover. I mean, not for Passover night, but Feast of Unleavened Bread. You might want to fry some chicken up. You might want to, make some omelets. You might want to make a breakfast sandwich out of unleavened bread. You might want to, make some baked chicken, and you might need to use the egg to coat the breadcrumbs. I mean, the flour, etc. All right. But this is a list of certain things, even when it comes down to the buttermilk as well. Like, the buttermilk is fermented. So you don't want to make your unleavened bread with buttermilk either. You don't want to use anything that's fermented like that, like yeast is fermented. Just to be safe, sisters. Just let's be safe. We'd rather be safe than sorry when it comes down to Judgment Day. And, the Lord looks at us and goes over the Feast of Unleavened Bread. At least, Lord willing, I don't want to Roger's out. He's just, Lord willing, the Lord can just have mercy on us and say that we kept the Passover to the best of our ability. And we didn't say, well, I just use egg because such and such. But I know that there is a small % chance that maybe it could rise a little bit for the Lord's Passover. Just use a little bit of it. Like, let's just be wise. Like the scripture says, harmless, and let's be wise. All right. Exodus 12:20, ye shall eat nothing leavened, in all your habitations shall ye eat unleavened bread. So when you don't put yeast in bread, the dough won't rise. All right, so it's going to be dense and heavy in texture. And anytime you make even a dessert unleavened bread, it's going to be dense and kind of heavy. It's going to miss that fluff, that 100% fluff like you would when you have yeast and baking powder, baking soda, eggs, etc. Okay, all right, and this is just a few things that eggs can do: texture, flavor, color, structure, moisture. All right, bread made without eggs might be drier. All right, they provide that structure, stability. Usually, if you ever made cornbread and you don't use eggs, 9 times out of 10, it's going to fall apart. It's going to be crumbly. It's going to fall apart. All right, just like I said before, what's the intent of the egg? Are you using it for a color, to enhance the golden brown color of the crust? What are you using it for? Are you trying to mess with the structure of the egg? All right, for it to hold its shape. It says that in some recipes, egg help provide structure and stability. Without them, the bread may not rise as well or hold its shape. There you have it. Just don't use it. Come on, let's go back to the article. All right, besides the nutritional benefits, there are a few other good reasons to use egg in bread making. It makes the bread lighter and fluffier. Hello. All right. The reason for that is that the fat in the yolk that inhibits gluten formation just as any other fat would. This results in a looser dough that can expand and puff up more. All right. I mean, we've been reading it and we know it's all coming together. The egg white, on the other hand, acts as a coagulant and sets the crumb, making it bouncier and chewier in a good way. All right. Crust is another part of the bread that is greatly affected by egg. It caramelizes more and becomes crispier. That's why I said some people use that egg mixture with a little bit of milk to make it more caramelized, more crispier, a little crunch on the biscuit. It makes it look a little better, prettier to look at. Breads that contain egg should not be baked at a very high temperature, as the crust may go too dark soon. Eggs also add flavor, which works well in enriched dough. The yolk is the part that contributes to the flavor mostly, and white is quite bland by itself. All right, these were the results, as you can see in the pictures. The bread with the no egg looked normal as the other white loaf. It had puffed up as any other white loaf. It had puffed up evenly and had a nice crust color and a soft texture. And this is with no egg. The interior was soft but quite tight. Like we said before, when you don't add that egg, it's going to be dense. Now, this is with yeast. Imagine it with no yeast. It's quite tight. This could be made lighter by skipping the pre-shaping or folding steps, making the dough looser. Number 2. Let's look at which egg was it? That was the number 2 egg. Oh, the whole egg. Okay, we're going to look at it. Number 2. The one with a whole egg had puffed up quite a bit. Puffed up sounds like leaven. Sounds like a leavening agent a little bit. You see what I'm saying? This is due to the gluten weakening. Effect that the fatty yolk has. As she mentioned above, the crust had more color, and it was thinner and crispier than the one without the egg. The crumb was soft and fluffy, there you have it, and it had a faint egg taste. All right, number 3, the egg white bread was quite like the bread with no egg. Both breads had the same volume and crust looked similar too. Although it looked like this one had more of an evenly colored crust, that could be the fault of her oven too. The crumb was a little chewier because of the egg whites. She said there was no egg flavor in this one, and it would make for a great sandwich loaf with a good bite to it. So let's see. All right, so when we compared 1 and 3, she said that it was quite tight. So it was a little bit tighter. She said that this one had number 3 with the egg white, that also it was the same. The egg white bread was quite like the bread with no egg. Both breads had the same volume and crust looked similar too. She said had the same volume, and the crust looked similar too. Although it looked like this one had a more evenly colored crust, that could have been be fault from her oven. But she said that the crumb was a little chewier because of the egg whites, and there was no egg flavor in that one. It would make great for a sandwich loaf with a good bite to it. The whole point is that number 1, and number 3, she said that number 1 was tighter. She said it was quite tight. She said although the volume was kind of the same, you can kind of tell the difference. You can kind of tell the difference. At least I can. In the egg white and the no egg. And we already don't need to read number 4. We can see it just puffed up a lot with just the egg yolk. So a lot of people like to say that they use the egg white for, structure, for, flavor, etc. But just, I'm just not going to use it. I would just be safe than sorry. If you got to do all this whole egg white yolk, egg yolk, I don't have time for it. Like I said, it's just better to be safe than sorry. So let's go into recipes. All right, so we went over the fried honey unleavened bread recipe, and again, this recipe can be used for empanadas, pizza dough, whatever you want to make. All right, so this is one of the recipes that I made by accident, and it's what is this called? Oh man, y'all, this is a funnel cake. All right, so this the kids love this. Like I said in the comments. This is a funnel cake, and every time I try to make pancakes, I mean, they turn out all right, but they're just so dense. I don't like it. I don't like making unleavened bread pancakes. I know some sisters can do it, and they love it. I just personally don't like it. But I said, let me just use this and try to do a funnel cake. And sister said they made it, and they said it was delicious. So this is a dish that I like to make for the Feast of Unleavened Bread, which is a funnel cake. And just put some fruit on top of it, the fruit of your choice, peaches, strawberries, blueberries, and it was 4 cups of sugar, 1 cup of brown sugar, 3 cups of almond milk, 1/2 stick of melted butter, and a tablespoon of vanilla extract. All right, and yeah, I can't wait to make this, Lord willing. This was delicious. The kids love this. They went crazy. All right, and this was another one. This was cinnamon rolls. Now, you can tell the difference. This is when I first, when it was done. And this was when it was done. This was the second stage. I rolled it out just like you would have a regular cinnamon roll. You could tell the bread is dense. But, you can see it bread is still going to rise a little bit. You can see, obviously, it's going to expand a little. But it doesn't look like how it would look if it were yeast in the bread. So it's a little dense, and you can tell right here in the bread. It's a little dense like unleavened bread should be. But I just put a little cream cheese topping on it. Strawberry cream cheese topping. And this was good. The kids liked this. It was a little sweet. I don't really do sweets like that, but yeah, they like this a lot. Dang, where is the recipe to this at? Oh man, I'm gonna have to find it. I'll put in the comments, Lord willing, this recipe. All right, and these were, again, this is too sweet for me, but again, this could be for the kids. A lot of sisters were saying, oh, what are the kids going to eat? I made this for my kids, little Crustables, PB&J sandwiches. First stage, second, third, and just fried them, okay? You could tell he was excited about it. All right, and this is a recipe for that. Unleavened bread, PB&J, Uncrustables, 3 cups of flour, almond milk, vanilla extract. You screenshot it. Just got screenshot it. Okay? All right, again, practice makes perfect. This was my first time making unleavened bread ever. All right, and it just, got better with time, Lord willing. Okay? All right, and this is a recipe that we use as well. I actually got this recipe from a sister in IUIC on Facebook. I think she was in IUIC. I can't remember, but this is a delicious recipe. The only thing that I wouldn't use is eggs again, but did she use eggs in this? Let me see. Oh yeah, she did use 2 eggs. So we use just a little bit. You got to tweak this. So we used a little bit more milk and maybe a little bit more butter, but we didn't use the eggs, but this is how it turned out. And this is pretty old. This is an old picture. All right. So go ahead and screenshot these recipes. And shout out to that sister. All right, that made that recipe. It's delicious. All right, and this is my unleavened bread recipe for waffles. I already know, just on the channel. If you don't know, I post it every year. It takes a while to make. It's delicious. It's like a crust. It's like eating, how you can eat, you'll eat toast with butter, jelly, or cream cheese on it. That's what it tastes like. So it's delicious. Give that a try. All right, just, go ahead and screenshot that recipe. All right, and this is just some meal ideas. This was just some turkey bacon. Some turkey burgers my husband wanted me to make, and I used the fried unleavened bread recipe for this. This looks so unhealthy. But what you could do is you could make that unleavened. You could use the unleavened bread recipe. This one. Yeah, you can use this unleavened bread recipe. And maybe not add as much, but you can take away the vanilla extract and the sugar. Maybe just like a little bit of sugar. Maybe, substitute for like garlic powder or something. And then make the crust that way. Make the bread that way. And put it in I don't know. I'm just thinking about what you could do differently, but yeah, this is what he wanted, so that's what he got. One Passover turkey burgers. Or this looked like a chicken sandwich, but I think it's a turkey burger. Sitting there eating. Look, girl, let's move on. All right, and this is an empanada. You can use that same recipe with the fried unleavened bread to make empanadas. This is like a chicken empanada. All right, and again, these are some of the leavening agents. And Lord willing, I'm going to wrap this video up, y'all, because this was so much. But all praises to the Most High. Like I said, let's get the precept. All right, this is Galatians 5 and 9. A little leaven leaveneth the whole lump. So even if it's just a little leaven, it can leaven the whole dish. Just like a little leaven, in your spirit, it messes up, and it can affect everybody, your whole household, congregation. So try your best to make sure you're getting rid of all that leaven in your spirit, and also the ingredients for your unleavened bread. Okay? That little bit of leaven a whole lump. Just like I said before, when you writing down that list, examining yourself, trying to get rid of all that old leaven, and you trying to put off that old woman, and you got that list of sins or things you need to work on, and you say, well, I'm going to just keep lying to my family about small stuff because they don't need to know my business, because this and that, whatever excuse you have, that little bit of leaven still leaven up the whole lump. Okay? It's still going to affect you. All right? All right, and this is 1 Corinthians 5, 7, and 8. Purge out therefore the old leaven, that ye may be a new lump, as ye are unleavened. For even Hamashiach Yahushai, our Passover, is sacrificed for us. Therefore let us keep the feast, not with old leaven, neither with the leaven of malice and wickedness, but with the unleavened bread of sincerity and truth. So that's why it's also, I'm going to keep talking about the egg, y'all. It's also just important to just kind of be safe. Unleavened, it's that little bit of leaven. You know what I'm saying? Just be safe with the bread. It's whatever your husband wants for your household, your congregation wants, but this is just my opinion. I know sisters they use eggs for whatever reason. It's whatever people choose to do. It's whatever your household wants you to do. Like the scripture says. It's just, to my opinion, to be better safe than sorry, but at the end of the day, who am I? You know what I'm saying? This is just an opinion. But yeah, you gotta purge out therefore that old leaven. Right, that we may be a new lump going into spring, going into a new year, whatever it is that we need to work on, write it down in the list. Like, every year we say the same thing. Write what you need to work on down. All right, fast, pray, try to get those spirits off of you so that you're that new lump going into a new year, a new month, Passover. All right. Whew. All right, so call Lawyer how about Shema Mashiach Wamalaki Yahushai. Let's try to keep this Passover, preparing Passover, getting our minds ready for this Passover Feast of Unleavened Bread. And Lord willing, sisters, continue to endure all things. Love y'all and shalom.